Ok, bienvenidos a clase SSL nivel 1. So, Spanish is second language, level 1. Glad you're all here. Our theme is Sigue hablando más español, keep speaking more Spanish. And that's what we want to help everybody do. So we are going to, before I kick off our class with putting us in Spanish mode with Bluey, an announcement. So every first Friday of the month from 9 to 11 a.m., we have a language cafe across the street at Roosevelt Park Ministries in our offices. So open to the public, and what we do is invite everybody from our SSL classes, you guys, both beginner and advanced, morning and evening, and our ESL people that can make it, to come and just hang out. And it's a language cafe because there's actually coffee. Usually we hit up Starbucks to donate coffee and some kind of pastries and treats. So anyway, so the first Friday of the month is this coming Friday. So I want to make everybody aware of that. It's kind of open house style, so if you can only drop in for 15-20 minutes and say hi. We have, I think I brought it with me. We have guided conversation sheets so that usually we just encourage people to pair up in groups of 2 or 4, or sometimes just several people around the table. And the conversation sheets are parallel English and Spanish. So our people learning English get to use the English side to ask questions and answer, and the people that are learning Spanish get to use the Spanish side, so you don't have to just all make it up. But it's just a great chance to practice, get to know people. So everybody's invited, and depending on how many people come, we may have to move it. We usually just stage it in our center area and got coffee. So you're welcome. So bienvenidos to Language Cafe. So that's coming up this Friday. So 9 to 11, open house style, drop in for as long as you want.
Where is it again?
Across the street, Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Roosevelt Park Ministries, which is like, right across the street here, across from Cesar Chavez. You got a sign on the door, and the front door will be open. So you can park here and walk kitty corner if you want. You can park in the Supermercado Chela parking lot, or you can park around behind our building, which is like limited space there. And then the front door will be open and you can come on in. So that's going on this Friday. We'll try to remind people every time those are coming up. So last week we practiced our ABCs in Spanish, because if you know what every letter of the Spanish alphabet says, if you know its name, so A is A, B is B, C is Se, CH is Che, okay? If you know what they say, then anytime you see that letter in a word, you just say the name of the letter in the word, and you can pretty much pronounce the word. So you do some blending. So we will go to page 22 and do the alphabet old school. And again, we're just going to run through it a couple times, do it once, very slowly, then we'll do a little bit faster. So you can have those down. And we'll jump to the page one. So, Roman numeral 22.
Oh, Roman numeral.
Yeah, sorry, intro.
Okay.
Numero romano 22, 22. And you're allowed to follow along because there are extra letters in the Spanish alphabet. So, okay, ready? Here we go. A, B, C, Che, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, L, M, N, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
It's a little crazy to us here.
Yeah, Y. So I'm not going to bother doing V corta. It's V and W is the easiest. It's the most common. Some people explain. So does anybody remember last week why Y is Y?
Greek guy.
It's the Greek guy. So it's Y. And in some countries they will say ye instead of Y. So, but Y is the most common. It's how I learned it. So You can do both. Okay, so let's run it again just a little bit faster. A, B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. All right, we go one more time without me. I'm just going to listen to you guys. So ready, go. A,
B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
good, excelente. So, let's put your pronunciation to the test real quick by going to the more toward the back of your book, and I'm just going to put up some random words that are not super common, and see if we have people that are willing to try to pronounce that. Shall we review accents? If a word ends in a vowel, where do we accent it? Second to the last, or next to the last syllable. What are the two consonants that also get accented that way if the word ends in them? So it's a vowel or N, good, or S, yeah. And just think about that, because if you're making a plural, you're not going to change the accent. And S is usually what makes things plural in Spanish like it does in English. So vowel, N or S, next to the last syllable. If it ends in any other letter, where does it get accented by default?
Second?
No,
N?
very end one. Yep, very last syllable. If it ends in any letter other than N or S, or a vowel, if it ends in a consonant, the accent goes on the last syllable. The only exceptions are when you actually get the accent showing you where it goes. So, again, ends in any consonant other than N or S, accent goes where?
Next to the last syllable.
Nope, last syllable. Any consonant, except N or S. If it ends in a vowel or N or S, it goes on the?
Next to the last.
Good. So, here's your word. Make sure I spell it right. All right, who wants to give it? First of all, does anybody know what that word means in Spanish? Okay, good. So, who wants to take a shot at pronouncing this word? There's no accent, so it's going to follow the rules. Remember what the letters say? Sure, Tracy.
Ajedrez.
Ajedrez. Very good. So, a, jota, he, dres, and the accent goes in the last. Ajedrez. It means chess. It's the word for chess in Spanish. Okay. Let's try this one. Few different vowels. So, again, no accent. So, anybody want to try this one? Follows all the rules. Sure.
Aaron.
That's you. Aaron, I'm sorry. Your thing fell over, and that's like, oh, great.
Sorry.
The one person. So, Aaron, go ahead. Try.
Colorete.
Very good. Colorete. Okay, pronunciation key. Anytime you have syllable breaks, the syllable break will almost always be after your vowels. So, co, lo, re, te. So it'll be colorete. All right, good. Anybody knows what colorete is?
To color.
No, but that's close. It actually means lipstick.
Oh, wow.
All right, let's do. Oh, this is good because it's just three words together. So. All right, again, no accents. So, anybody want to give that a shot?
Hora tras hora.
Muy bien. Hora tras hora. Figure out what that means?
Hour by hour?
Hour by hour.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Get it. Go me, baby.
Yes. Okay.
Hey, we see you.
Yes. All right. Let's try one more. This is good. So if you've already answered one, you may not answer another one. And I'm giving you all ones without accents on purpose, so you can practice the rules. Sure, Sheila.
Estar sentado.
Muy bien. Estar sentado. So those of you who have some rudimentary Spanish, we're going to be getting to this. Estar means to be. Sentado, seated. So to be seated. Estar sentado. Good. All right. Let's find one a little bit harder. All right, sure. Let's take some of this off the board. I'm starting saying it out loud. I'm so used to like saying what I'm writing. Oh, no, they were not seated. We've already had seated. All right, if you haven't answered, Rebecca.
We're just reading it, right? Not
Yeah, just reading it. Yep.
Okay. Ellos estaban cenando.
Ellos estaban cenando. So you can read it without knowing what it means. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of Spanish. So, from what we know, ellos is they. No, except it's estaban. We'll get to this 4 or 5 lessons in past tense of estar. So they were cenando. Do we know cena? Do we know desayuno, almuerzo y cena? Yeah. They were dining or they were eating supper. So breakfast is desayuno. Lunch is almuerzo. Or more and more, lonche. Lonche is becoming more and more common. It's one of those carryover words that's become part of the vocabulary. And then supper is usually cena. And so to cenar is to sup, to eat supper, to eat your evening meal. So they were dining, they were eating supper. Good. All right. So, good practice. Yeah, before we start elements of Spanish, because we did not get a chance to cover this last week. Did we do greetings and salutations? Have you those at your tables? No. Okay. I was going to, and we were out of time because we were doing alphabet. So here's what you're going to do. In groups of either 2 or 3, if you've got 3 at your table, run them in like a triangle. If you've just got 2, do them together. If you've got more than that, if you can do them in pairs of 2s, do it that way. Okay, so either 3s or 2s. And what you're going to do is you're just going to run through the greetings, and if you alternate them except for buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas, don't just pick the one you want. And you're welcome to fill in your own name instead of the name there. Run this really basic but really common conversation. This is how the majority of conversations go as you're meeting people. Atención para acá. Excelente. Me gusta escuchar tanto español. I love hearing so much Spanish being spoken. And obviously there's variants on all these things, especially like the how are you. So let's see how many, because this is good vocabulary increaser stuff that you're not going to get in the book. So just like we have a myriad of ways, if somebody asks you how you're doing in English, the same runs true for Spanish. So I want to see how many of you guys can come up with that you've either heard on TV or on the radio or in your travels as you're talking to people. So the question is, we're going to assume the familiar. that you know the person you're talking to. So, ¿cómo estás? Or, anybody know another alternate that's usually pretty common, especially amongst friends? ¿Qué tal? Which means, ¿qué is how or what. So, ¿qué tal is like, what's up or what's happening? But it also kind of means, how are you? So, if people may ask ¿qué tal? And you'll hear people say bien. So, ¿qué tal? Yep. ¿Qué pasó? Or ¿qué pasa? Which is, what's up, what's happening? So, ¿qué pasa? So, ¿cómo anda? Which is like, how are things going? Andar is to walk, so ¿cómo anda? Or ¿cómo andas? Which is kind of like, how are things going for you? So that's ¿cómo andas? All right, so those are all common question forms. So, how many answers to these have we had? And we know bien, we know muy bien. So, Sheila?
Not to that one. We were asking,
Oh.
or I guess if you want that. The dinner one.
Oh, the dinner, okay.
You can ask me. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm sending you.
Yes, your pregunta about dinner?
So, ask me the dinner.
¿O qué quieres para cena?
Para cena or para cenar?
Para cenar.
So then I would say, puedo tener per llevar hamburguesa de Hall of Fame.
Puedo tener. Yes. What was after that?
Per llevar.
Oh, para llevar. Puedo tener para llevar hamburguesa.
Is that like a
de-
noun too? Do they use that like how we?
Yeah, so I totally understand what you're saying. You're saying, can I have takeout from? Can I have a hamburger takeout from?
And then I just said the restaurant name.
Right.
Yeah.
So for takeout, they switched the order a little bit. So
Okay.
that would have been totally understandable. If I would have been a Spanish speaker, I would have known exactly what you were wanting. But it's so you get asked, what do you want for supper? ¿Qué quieres para cenar? Puedo tener. So these are good building blocks. Puedo tener is can or may I have. Puedo, asking can, is polite. So if you say puedo tener, what's another way of saying I want? Yo quiero. Yo quiero. So if you're in a restaurant, if you're ordering, if there's any question, puedo tener is like may I have versus I want. So like if you're ordering at a drive-through, saying I want is totally fine. If you're like out with somebody or if you're at somebody's house and they're offering and you're not sure, then puedo tener. And so she wanted to say, so puedo tener. She wanted something very specific. Hamburguesa con queso. Okay, hamburguesas con queso. Entonces, Sheila, ¿lo querías con queso? Did you want it with cheese? You just wanted hamburgers.
A papas fritas.
Y papas fritas. Okay, so okay.
Order out here.
Hamburguesas con, this is important vocab. Hamburguesas con queso y papas fritas. And then in Spanish, takeout, the most common form is para llevar. And in Spanish, the modifier almost always comes after your subject. So while we would say, I want takeout hamburgers and french fries from someplace, in Spanish you would say, I want hamburgers, queso, papas fritas para llevar. To go.
Is that what that means, to go?
Yeah, para llevar is to go, or take out. And it's used for both. So para llevar, which is for to go. Literally.
Would you put in front of hamburguesas? No? Or would it just, is it just puedo tener?
Puedo tener hamburguesas, yeah.
Okay, so you just say, may
May I have
I
hamburgers?
have hamburger, you don't say may I have a hamburger.
Yeah, if you want to say just a hamburger, because this is plural, so hamburgers.
Okay.
So you can say, puedo tener una hamburguesa, singular. Puedo tener una hamburguesa con queso y papas fritas para llevar. Puedo tener hamburguesas con queso y papas fritas.
But you don't only want one french fry, so you might as well plural with the whole.
Oh yeah, papas fritas is always, there's no such thing as a papa frita.
Right.
No, it doesn't exist. No such thing as a single fry. So yeah, now if you want a baked potato, then it's a papa sancochada, and then usually it is singular because we don't usually eat multiple baked potatoes at a time.
You don't.
So, okay. So good question. Yes, Jim.
Would Peta Yavar like stand by itself? If you would say like Quieres Peta Yavar?
I'm not sure I understand.
Not talking to you.
You know, to say like
Siri is legendary for interrupting this class. So if you want to just say, I want takeout,
like or to ask the question to somebody like Quieres Peta Yavar, if that makes sense. Like, do you want takeout or not?
you would probably say, ¿Quieres comida para llevar?
Do
So
I-
takeout, because llevar is so broad, it's applied to so many different things. Unless you have an immediate context of food, it would sound they would want a modifier. So if you're saying, do you want to eat takeout or do you want to get takeout? ¿Quieres comida para llevar? So, and just say comida. So food, takeout food. We don't need that because takeout is so much a part of. It's become takeout is its own thing. We understand that. In Spanish, not so much. It's just the way they decided to say
One
it.
more time. ¿Quieres comida
Para llevar.
para llevar?
Yeah. So it would just be. ¿Quieres comida para llevar? Or you could say, ¿Quieres pedir comida para llevar? Do you want to ask for takeout? So, but either way, ¿Quieres comida para llevar? All right. Good. Okay, so where were we? Gracias, Sheila, for the practical question application. Oh, all right, I actually know where we were. Yes, we were doing all the different answers to ¿Cómo estás? So, ¿Cómo andas? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué onda? That's another question, more younger set. ¿Qué onda just means like, it's another kind of like what's happening. Onda is like,
¿Dónde está?
no, onda, so it's spelled like Honda. Okay, onda. And onda is like a trend or, if you'd have been back in the 60s and 70s, a groove. People are going, I was like 10 years in the making in the 60s and 70s. What are you talking about? So ¿Qué onda? Is another thing. It's like ¿Qué onda? So it's just like, what's up? What's happening? It's just another. So, all right. So we already got our first one from Rebecca. Así, which is more or less. ¿Qué más? What else have you heard or know for answers to how you're doing?
Like, some people say buenos dias.
Yeah.
So would that be a form of that as well?
¿Cómo estás?
Like,
No, if
what
somebody
I-
said how are you, these are all answers to the question how are you?
Okay.
Or how are you? How you doing?
But
So-
like good day, sometimes you interpret that as, I often say it as like, how are you? But that wouldn't be.
Not so much.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's definitely kind of a thing we've done in English where it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Okay.
it's like, good morning, yeah, doing well. We just skipped over the intermediate question. It's understood. So, yeah.
Bien, ¿y tú?
Okay, bien. So, doing well, and you?
Would you ever say just bueno?
¿Cómo estás? Bueno? No, you'd say bien.
Bien. Okay.
Yeah, because bueno is good as in describing like a flavor or a situation, and bien is more the state of being.
Okay.
So, at some point we'll get the bien, bueno differentiation.
Todo bien? I hear that
Todo
a
bien.
lot.
Yeah, todo bien, which is everything's great. Should be todo. Todo bien? Yep.
What did you say? Así, así.
Así, so. Yeah. Más o menos.
No
Soy-
está bien,
Huh?
no está bien,
You could say no estoy bien.
no estoy.
No estoy bien, which is I'm not doing well.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would probably get, wow, ¿qué pasa? Hey, good honest answer, but yeah, you could say, so if you're like wanting to be specific about yourself, no estoy bien. So, for example, I've got a daughter-in-law who's gonna have a baby hopefully tomorrow. So yeah, so call her up and say, you know, ¿Cómo estás? Estoy muy bien, o no estoy bien. Not doing really well. That's kind of where that would get used in a real specific context. Yeah, Kristen.
You could use tango with a number of words, like tengo sueño,
¿Cómo
tango,
estás? Yeah,
tango anything, right?
yeah, tengo I have. So tengo sueño, tengo hambre. Yeah, tengo hambre is I have hunger. So there'll be, as we work through, we're gonna have a whole section on using tener, I have, with all the different phrases that are like almost idiomatic, because it's the way you say, I'm hungry or I'm sleepy, it's I have sleepiness, I have hunger, I have. Okay, what else have you heard for ¿Cómo estás?
The one in the book, regular, más o menos.
Yep, regular or más o menos. So regular, I'm okay. También you hear okay, still okay. So más o menos would be real similar to así, así. Más o menos, more or less.
Muy cansado.
Muy cansado, okay, I'm really tired, yeah. Okay. So ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué onda?
What was the one you said for I'm still alive?
Ah.
Oh,
Todavía vivo.
Yeah.
So I'm still alive. Todavía vivo. Or they might even just say vivo aún.
that.
I still live.
That. That's
I still live.
I like that.
I still live. Vivo aún.
Ayun,
Survive aún.
aún,
Yeah. Aún.
vivo, aún, vivo aún.
Vivo aún. I still live.
Well, like mucho bien,
Instead of mucho, it'd be muy.
muy bien.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, mucho is like much, a lot. Muy is like very. So if we're saying very good, just like we wouldn't say much good, we would say very good. So muy is very, mucho is much. That's kind of the correspondence. But yeah, muy bien. All right, that's a pretty good list. And you're gonna hear, lots of variations on all those. So, okay, good.
Can I
So,
ask one question?
absolutely.
What would you say instead of bien? So if you said, you say no estoy bien, but if you wanted to say I'm bad.
Estoy mal.
mal.
Yeah, you could say estoy mal or estoy muy mal. I'm doing badly,
Right.
very badly.
So
Yeah.
it would
So
be
it would be,
mal instead.
yeah, so it would be instead of no estoy bien, estoy mal, or estoy muy mal. The other thing you'll hear is, ¿Cómo estás? Excelente. I'm excellent. Great. Fantástico.
Would you
Anyways,
say,
go ahead.
would you say estoy mal if it was something like I'm out of gas as opposed to I'm sick?
¿Cómo estás? No, because muy mal is more personal. Yes, it's more personal, not like circumstance
Okay.
related. Yeah. So if you were like, yeah, things weren't going well, ¿Cómo estás? You'd probably say like, no muy bien, not real well. And then the follow-up would be, ¿por qué?
Okay.
Porque se me acabó la gasolina. My car ran out of gas. That's not fun.
Okay.
Especially this morning when it was raining, freezing rain. Did not happen, sorry. Matt?
Do I feel like I hear estoy bien as like almost a greeting, like are you good, or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah,
That's
estoy bien.
a lot.
Yeah, so they will use estoy bien like are fine.
Yeah.
And so even if you're not all that great, if it's just like a total stranger or it's just like greetings, and it's like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Estoy bien. And you might, your grandmother may have just died. But you say estoy bien because you're not going to get into it. Same thing happens in Spanish as you do in English. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good. And estoy bien works for like I'm fine or I'm good. Yeah, and it's kind of the polite expected response if you're not planning on getting into it.
It's what you say in the Uber.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. How you doing? I'm good. I'm fine. All right. Okay, excelente. So, before we go to chapter 1, let's do some reading. I have a book. I think I used this one class.
Yeah.
Right here, do countdown books. So some of you, this may be a repeat. So, but it's good to practice. So this is, you can read this. This is Lectores Relámpagos Prelector. So this is like pre-reader. So it's like the most basic like reading in Spanish. But it's going to give you a chance to encounter some new words and to sound things out. So you can read it even if you may not know what it means. So, la cuenta regresiva. So does anybody know what la cuenta or what contar is? To count. Right. So la cuenta regresiva is, so regresiva, regresar is the Spanish verb to go back or to return. So la cuenta regresiva is the count backwards. So it's a countdown. So it's how you say a countdown in Spanish, like 10, 9, 7, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's what the book is about. That gives you a little bit of context. So, so many people, how are we going to do this? All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this several times so you can be hearing it. First time through, since there's some new vocab, I'm going to read it for you really quickly the first time so you can just see how words are pronounced. And then we are going to have tables read it out loud one at a time. So we'll go through it a few times. So, all right, so I'm going to read it the first time. You guys can follow along. La cuenta regresiva. Es hora de ir a dormir. Listo para la cuenta regresiva. 10. Un astronauta limpio. 9. Un traje espacial reluciente. 8. Zapatos para andar en la luna. 7. Un libro sobre cohetes. 6. Jugo espacial. 5. Mi copiloto favorito. 4. Un casco. 3. Anteojos espaciales. 2. Un walkie-talkie. 1. Mi propia nave espacial. 0. Okay, so bedtime countdown. And now what I'm going to do really fast is just translate it for you because there's a lot of like different words, and it actually helps if you know the words to be able to read them. So, well, let's see how much you guys can translate. I'm curious to see how much of this you can figure out. So let's do a group translation of the book. So, es hora de ir a dormir.
Time to go to bed.
It's time to go to sleep or go to bed. Works for both things. Good. Listo para la cuenta regresiva. Yeah, ready. Listo is ready. Ready for the countdown. 10. Un astronauta limpio.
The astronaut needs to be clean.
Yep, 10. A clean astronaut. 9. Un traje espacial reluciente.
Time to put on the special suit.
Close. So we got 9.
Space suit.
A spacesuit, and reluciente is shiny. So I'm trying to think what we have in English close to reluciente, but reluciente means shiny. So a shiny spacesuit. 8. Zapatos para andar en la luna.
Shoes to land on the moon.
To walk on the moon. Very good. Yep. Shoes to walk on the moon. 7. Un libro sobre cohetes.
A book about rockets.
Yes. 7. A book about rockets. 6. Jugo espacial.
Special juice?
Not special.
Space juice. Space
Space
juice.
Space
Oh,
juice, yeah, espacial
yeah.
is space. Spatial juice or space juice, okay? 5, mi copiloto favorito.
My favorite coat.
Yes. 4, un casco.
My headphones.
My
Yeah.
helmet,
Helmet, casco is a helmet, yeah, we're doing pretend here,
I
so.
remember from class.
Yes. All right. 3, anteojos espaciales.
Something space.
Special, my
Space
space
glasses.
antennas.
Space glasses, yes.
Oh,
2, un walkie-talkie.
2, walkie-talkie.
Yes, that's one of those words that just got carried over. Didn't even bother trying to translate it. 1, mi propia nave espacial.
Something space.
Spaceship?
Yeah, spaceship. Only it's mi propia means my own. So mi propia is my own spaceship. 0.
0.
Mm,
Easily.
Okay. All right. So there we go. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to start with Lynn, Rebecca, and Mark, and who just left? Doreen. Actually, since she's gone, we're going to start with this other room. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with Jake, Tracy, and Laura.
We go for one.
And you are going to read the book to us at your table. So everybody take a page and just keep reading around. So, Jake, why don't you start?
Ready?
Yep, there we go. Because everybody's going to do this, so.
Yeah, you're our hero.
¿Estás listos?
Good. ¿Están listos? Yeah? See?
Sí.
Okay.
Es hora de ir a dormir.
Listo para la cuenta regresiva.
Good.
10, un astronauta limpio.
Yep, it's astronauta. It's a really hard word in Spanish, even if you don't.
Astronauta.
Yep, astronauta.
It's like her name.
Astronauta.
Uh-huh.
Laura.
Lauda, yes.
Laura.
Okay, good. Okay, keep going, Jake.
9, un traje espacial reluciente.
Yep.
8, zapatos para andar en la luna.
7, un libro sobre cohetes.
Yep. Remember the H is silent, so you just pretend it's not there. So, sobre cohetes.
Sobre cohetes.
So the key when you have a word like cohetes, where you've got an H dividing 2 vowels, what you do is you pretend the H isn't there and then you just say each of the vowels. So, cohetes.
Cohetes.
That's how, because you don't blend it, doesn't become cohetes, but it's cohetes. Almost always, if you're sounding out a verb, if you make every single vowel distinctive, you'll be much closer to pronouncing the word correctly. Because all the vowels get said in Spanish, with a few exceptions. There are some blends, but for the most part, every vowel gets pronounced. So, good. So that's so cohetes is it's a hard word. Okay, Jake, keep going.
6, jugo espacial.
Bien.
5, mi copiloto favorito.
Yeah, favorito. Okay.
Cuatro.
4. Yeah, there you go. 4.
Un casco.
Yep, un casco.
3, anteojos espaciales.
Good.
2, un walkie-talkie.
Yeah, make sure you say walkie-talkie with a Spanish accent, so it's walkie-talkie.
Oh, okay. 2, un walkie-talkie.
Good.
1, mi propia nave especial.
Yep, espacial.
Espacial.
Yeah, because if you don't make the if you make it A, then it becomes especial, which is special, not spatial. So, espacial. So yes, so espacial, if you make the A, make sure it's a pure A in Spanish, because if you make it an A, and it's especial, that means special in Spanish. Espacial is spatial, or space related. So, all right, Jake. Okay, so ours, here's the secret to make a good Spanish sounding R, so it doesn't sound like dormir or comer, because there's no long R sound in Spanish. If you think about shortening the R and putting a little bit of a D, so id, so it's like so there's almost like a D stop at the end of the R, id, comer, dormir, beber. So you're hearing the little, so a good way to visualize, if you think of the shortest R you can make with a slight D at the end, that's going to give you, so we don't have beber or comer or ear, because that sound doesn't exist in Spanish. So you just want it consonant super short and vowels pure. So there we go. And that's, so remember, let's do para. Para. Yep. Make all the A's are A's. Never gets any other sound than A. So para. Good. There we go. So now I would encourage you, since you've done it, if you've got someone you can read it to. So here's your homework. Your homework is to read this book to somebody this week out loud.
No, silent?
No, you may not read it silently to somebody. You may not sit there and flip the pages and not say anything. So this is good. Good practice, so do that. And yeah, good. So how many of you were like, on a scale of 1 to 10, at least a 6 or 7 intimidated about reading in Spanish out loud? Anybody? Okay. So, but here's the thing. The more you say it and the more you get your brain reprogrammed into the sound patterns, the better your Spanish is going to sound. And here's what's going to happen. As you say the words out loud yourself correctly, you're going to go, oh, I've heard that, or something like that. And it's actually going to help you remember and bring back stuff you know. Because the more you say it like you're going to hear it out there or it's said, the more word recognition you got. Because one of the biggest dangers, and I watched this happen. I came home from having lived in Latin America for 5 years, came home from my junior year of furlough to the United States with my parents, settled in my dad's small town farming community where he was born and raised, because that's where my grandpa had his double wide, and that's where we stayed while my parents visited their churches as missionaries. And so I went to this little rural Class D school. And they taught Spanish. And the Spanish teacher was the baseball coach. And I'm not sure why he got picked, except maybe he needed more hours. And so I knew I wasn't going to take Spanish. And yeah, I didn't bother taking a language that year. But my friends found out I could know Spanish. They're like, you need to help us with our Spanish. I'm like, sure. So they would hand me their vocab sheet. And let's just pretend, go to page 3, nouns, articles, and adjectives, where we're going in the book. So let's pretend that these are like their vocab. And they're saying, can you quiz us on vocab? And so I would say, sure, cool, happy to do so. And so I'd go, el amigo. Like, what? What's really basic? El amigo. No, what's that? Like, okay, let's try the next one. El banco. Those don't sound like, and I'd go, oh my heart, no, please, please. So I would say, el amigo. Oh, the friend. El banco. Oh, the bank. It's like, oh my gosh, these poor kids. But here's what was happening. The patterns for Spanish that were getting put in their heads were totally wrong. And so anytime they heard Spanish outside the context of the classroom, they couldn't recognize any of it. Even the most basic, even stuff they'd learned. So that's why I am going to be a stickler for correct pronunciation, because as you say stuff out loud, I want you to, because as you say it out loud and hear it yourself, that's going to set you up to understand more as you go to learn it. So I cringingly read through the whole list with the heaviest American accent that I could, so they could identify. And I tried, but I figured, what am I going to do in the 1 year I'm there? I'm not going to have them unlearn. And it was really funny because I found out, who the coach was. And so one day in the hall, before I'd done this with my friends, I greeted him in Spanish. And he kind of mumbled on okay, or está bien or something, estoy bien. And then he avoided me for the whole rest of the school year. And I felt really badly. I'm sure he was doing the best he can. Okay? But that was just, to me, it's like, wow, pronunciation is really important. And it happens all over the world. My wife tutored when we were in Venezuela. She and I as short-term missionaries, because we went back to the place I grew up in. She had one of our friends in the youth group that really wanted to learn English, and she wanted to work on her Spanish, and so they would work back and forth with each other. But the same thing was happening. And the day that she said, we learned how to say, for breakfast, I had orange juice and toast. And my wife's like, cool, I want to practice. So she said, for breakfast, we had oranges, juice, and toast. I was like, well, that's not quite right. So it's orange, but anyway, but that's how she was learning English. And I heard some of the English being taught as I walked by the school that was like right behind our house. And I'm listening to the English that's being taught going, oh no. So anyway, that's kind of a discourse, it's just to say, pronunciation is one of the really vital keys to both learning a language and being able to use the language. And I would rather have you speak less in what you speak like really clearly with as little of an accent as possible, than have a whole bunch of stuff that you say but most people might understand, but they just kind of cringe. So, and we're gonna go with, wherever you're at, don't let that stop you, but please know that any of my correction is because I know that this is going to help you long term with your Spanish learning. And that's what I'm here to do, is help you speak as much Spanish as possible. And also, it's going to up your confidence. If you know you're saying it right, you're going to be more inclined to say it and to practice it if you run into somebody. So, anyway, okay.
And it does matter when you're saying it, because they look at you with blank stares.
Oh, yeah.
Like you think you're so close to the word, but
Right.
they're like,
Not even.
yeah.
And that's not just Spanish, because I got sent to the DR Congo to do some teaching for a conference I was going to be at. And there it's either French or Lingala. So I'm like, okay, I've always wanted to learn French. I'm going to try to pick up some, and I'm using Duolingo and I'm practicing, and I'm trying to get some words down. I listen to French over and over in my car. And so we finally get there, and I get put up at this kind of bed and breakfast hotel sort of place. And the first night, the air conditioning unit drips all night into my leather tennis shoe, which is my main walking tennis shoe. So I wake up the next morning and my shoe is full of water soaking wet, thinking, okay, I'll wear my dress shoes today. This is the DR Congo. It's hot, it's sunny, but I'm because of the balconies and where my room was, there was no way I was going to get dressed. So I'm fine, I'll just ask the guys that are working here to put my shoe out in the sunshine. And so I pulled it up on my Google Translate, and I went to them, and I tried 3 or 4 or 5 times to say in French, the air conditioner dripped water, can you put my shoe into the sun? And finally, one of the poor guys looks at me and he says, I'm so sorry, no speak English. It's that's how bad my French was. He didn't even recognize it as French. I'm oh my heart. I'm and so finally I ended up pulling it up and just showing him, just read the screen. It's oh, okay, sure. And by nighttime, he had my shoe and it was totally dry. And he was wow, my French is so bad, but I think I'm speaking English. Anyway.
We were in Panama for the past 5 months, and we heard that on a very regular basis. And we thought speaking Spanish, but we weren't.
Yep. So everybody's got stuff. So anyway, so I'm glad you're here. We're here to work on it. All right. So page 3. So chapter 1: nouns, articles, and adjectives. Start working on some vocab. And again, I'm hoping you'll review this. Use the app, because the app from the book that you can scan and have on your phone will give you flashcards where it'll just give you the word and you can guess what it is or say it, and it'll flip and it'll tell you if it's right. So it's a great way to quiz yourself on vocab, because here's what you're going to find. As you start learning Spanish verb forms and you learn the verbs, you're going to find some of the biggest holes are wanting the vocab to put with the verbs. And so as you can learn vocab, and again, what is our goal when when we talk about fluency? What do we want? Does anybody remember?
We wanna be fluent in at least a few words.
Right. In whatever you're learning, you want to become fluent in what you're learning. So even if you only have a vocab list of 5 things, even if you only know like como estás, I want you to be so fluent in that that's automatic. Fluency means it's automatic, it's without thinking, you can just speak without having to do any translation, you just know what applies. And so what I want is as you're bringing stuff in, become fluent in that. Get that into the like automatic category, because what that does is it opens up space for new stuff to come in. Rather than having 50 words that you kind of know, but then when the pressure comes and you're in the moment and your heart starts to race and your stomach tenses up and your brain freezes, you're like, I know that word. But so what you want is the fluency. So it's like, no, even in the most pressure situation, it's like, ¿Cómo estás? Bien. Buenos días. Buenos dias. You just know that. And all of you have stuff you're fluent in Spanish already. There's certain things you just know. So my goal is to expand that so you keep building on your fluency. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go around the room. These have got the explanation, so we don't have to translate them. And we're just going to read the vocab around. And yeah, we're just going to run through this. So the focus on this is the fact that every noun in Spanish is either masculine or feminine. So it's either preceded by el or la, el if it's masculine, la if it's feminine, or los and las if they're plural. And its gender will not change. Why is it important to know the gender of the word? Because everything else that comes after it, like adjectives, has to match the gender. So it's la casa, que es azul, blanco, y roja. Why? Because it's la casa, so it's roja. It's not azul, blanco, y rojo. It's azul, blanca, y roja. So es una comida muy rica. So it's a very delicious food. La comida es rica. Es un plato muy rico. Because if it's a plato, it's a plate of food. Plato is another way of saying like a serving of food or a dish. If it's a dish, it's muy rico. So that's why learning the genders with the nouns is going to be important. And again, if you mess it up, I won't say nobody cares, but it's not going to hinder your being understood. People will notice it, but don't ever let not being totally sure about the gender, because even people who are fluent at times mess up the gender. Nobody's ever perfect with the genders, and I still do it. I still get corrected, and I've been speaking Spanish since I was 11 years old. So it happens. So it's important because you want to form stuff correctly, but it is not a deal breaker for speaking, and no one's going to be offended. So if you say La Casa Blanco, no one's going to be like, oh, you're like so horrible. You're so offensive. They're not. They'll just go, oh, poor people don't know their agreements super well, which not everybody does. Okay, so I'm going to start with Lynn, Rebecca, and we're just going to go around the room and run through these lists of phrases. So, again, just go down each column, and we'll just work our way around.
You mean the words?
The words, yeah.
On page 3?
Down page 3. Oh, and actually, so you get more pronunciation, we've got enough time, we've got enough words. Everybody do 3 words at a time instead of just 1. So do the first 3, Rebecca the second 3, and so everybody just do 3 words from the list as we work down through. Okay, and make sure you put the L or the la in front of it.
El amigo, el banco, el baño. El carro, el gato, el hermano.
El libro, el muchacho, el perro, el teléfono, el vino.
Yep, el teléfono.
Teléfono.
And el vino, good.
El animal, el café, el doctor.
Yep.
El hombre, el hospital, el hotel.
Yep, okay, so words like hombre, hospital, and hotel are really hard because we look at those and go, oh, I know what those are. And they're like English. And so it's el hospital or el hotel. So no, we want to make it no H's, and it's el hotel, el hospital. So keep those verbs even on the words that you see that you go, oh, I know that what it is. Keep the Spanish accent going. Okay, are we up to, okay, yeah, Edwin.
Tomate,
Yep,
el tren,
yes.
el clima,
Mm-hmm.
El día, el drama, el idioma.
Good, idioma. And remember, when you have a D, especially if it's surrounded by vowels, kind of give your D, just like we do our R with a little bit of a D, at the end of your D, give it just a little bit of a lisp, a little bit of a TH, soften it. So it's el idioma. Instead of el idioma, el idioma. It's almost like a TH. El drama, the R kind of makes that one a little bit harder. And we'll have other ones there, but your D's kind of soften them with a little bit of TH. All right, let's keep going. When we switch to this table, we'll start with Kevin and kind of work around that way. It's kind of more natural. So,
el mapa, el planeta, el poema,
yep, poema.
El problema, el programa, el sistema.
Okay, I'm going to pause right there because I don't know if you notice when they switch the page, most of your L nouns end in O, because that's kind of the more masculine like form. But what they're doing is they're also giving you a whole list that end in A. So you can't just assume because a word ends in A, it's feminine, or if it ends in O, it's masculine. Because there are ones that go both ways. So that's why they just gave you a whole series of A ending words that are actually L.
Is there any trick to annoying?
Nope, those you just have to memorize. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is no rhyme or reason. Which again, if you would ever say la poema, people will probably barely blink, even though people know it's el poema. Because, like I say, kids who are learning Spanish make all these mistakes, just like kids do in English. Kids think they've got a rule and they follow it, and then the next thing you know, the rule changes, but how they learn is because somebody corrects them and they hear it right, and so that's kind of what happens in Spanish. So with these, it's just kind of you do your best you can and know that a mistake is not going to break the understanding. Okay.
What are the rules though for like el poema? How do we know if it's
You just have to learn it.
masculine or there's no
You can't.
rule though?
Nope, there's no rules. There is no rule or rhyme or reason. Yeah, it's nothing.
Maybe
It's just somewhere back in the eons of time when people were deciding why they decided a poem should end in A and be masculine. I don't know. That just seems totally counterintuitive. Because poems just seem kind of like feminine to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be. So here's a really interesting thing in Spanish, and this is a constant. Now, I'm not sure who made these rules, but it's always el problema. So problems are always masculine, and it's always la solución. So problems are always masculine, solutions are always feminine. So,
Makes sense.
yeah,
I mean-
yeah. 99% of the women in my class concur. So,
I'm not saying it's wrong.
it's the opposite.
yes. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm really sorry, Laura. I wish I could say no. Here's the rule if you see this construction, but there isn't.
Okay.
Why it's el mapa? I don't know. Blame it on Dora the Explorer.
I was gonna
Who
say
knows?
Nora, I mean.
Okay, so where do we end up? We're to the feminine forms of a bunch of these. So to Sheila? Oh,
La amiga, la blusa, la bolsa.
okay.
La cama, la casa, la cerveza.
Ian?
La comida, la hermana, la iglesia.
Good.
La llamada.
Okay, where's our accent?
Llamada?
No, that would be if there wasn't an accent, but there's an accent written into the word. So what does that mean? Lámpara.
Lámpara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accent on the first A. If it didn't have an accent, it would be lampada, you'd be right, but now you gotta go, oh, there's that accent mark, so I gotta go
A little
lampada.
higher, okay. La lámpara, la mesa, la muchacha.
Bien. Jake?
La niña, la persona, la planta.
Mm-hmm.
La silla, la tienda, la ventana.
Bien.
Oh, man, la canción,
Mm-hmm.
la conversación.
Yep, only how do you do our O's in Spanish? Con. Yep. Con.
Con,
Ver.
conversación.
Yeah, conversación. This is a really good,
That's
this
a
is a
good
good word,
one.
this is a good word to put up for. So, yeah, here.
Conversación.
Conversación, yep.
La conversación.
La conversación. So, this is not original with me. And you may hear this more than once from me, but it's so helpful for pronouncing. La conversación. So, again, consonants get divided if there's two consonants between the consonants. If there's a vowel in a consonant, it gets divided after the vowel. So, con, ver, sa, sion. Conversación. Conversación. So you almost divide it into its own separate little mini words. And if you've got a really long one that seems, yeah, we're not going to do that now. This is enough. So just, if you can remember where to divide it, and almost like in your head divide it up into separate words, it'll help you, and just pronounce it syllable at a time, making the vowel say its name. A, E, O, U. And it'll help you with those long words. Especially when they look exactly like something in English. You know, conversation. Conversación. No. Conversación.
Conversación.
Muy bien. There you go.
Gracias.
You got it.
Gracias. La invitación.
Okay, now do the same thing with this one. What's our I say?
Y.
Okay.
Invitación.
Yeah, only it's in. V. Long E's. So, we're going to put this up too. This is good. Practice. In. V. Da. Sion. So, once again, let's divide it. In. V. Da. Sion. And so, it's
Invitación.
in. V. Then da. Sion. Yep. And again, it's hard because we say that's invitation. It's invitación. No, it's invitación.
Invitación.
Very good. Yep. And see, here's the thing: you can do this. So much of it's just retraining your brain. That's why we're going to do these vocab things like this. Yep. Because you'll get it.
Okay.
It'll sink in. All right. So where are we at? Did you do your 3?
I did.
Sorry that fell on you, Laura. It's actually got all the sion words. And as they're noting, pretty much all the time, this is like a 99% thing. If it ends in sion or da or ta or tu, then it's feminine. It's going to be la. So it's la conversación, la invitación, la lección. So anyway, we'll keep going through our list. So we are up to Monique, right? So Monique, we are at the next one. After invitación.
La lección.
Yep, only it's lección. If there's 2 C's, the first C becomes hard, the second C becomes soft. So lección.
La lección. La ilusión.
Okay, but what's our I say?
E.
Yep.
Ilusión.
There you go. Yes, ilusión.
And la television.
Do it in Spanish. There you go. It's la television. No, it's so do each syllable. Break it down. Uh-huh.
Visión.
Yep. Television.
Televisión.
Televisión.
Television.
Yep, televisión. Go ahead and say that one again.
Television.
Yeah, televisión.
Television.
Yeah, sorry, that English gets in the way because you're like, look, I know this. Okay, so Angela.
La ciudad,
Yes, good.
la
Ciudad.
verdad,
Mhm.
la amistad,
Yeah, amistad.
amistad.
Okay, Melanie.
La
Yep. So if you have C preceded, so if you ever have a C with another consonant, whether it's another C or a T, the first C is hard, so it becomes la, and that's a hard one in Spanish no matter. So it's la actitud. Actitud.
actitud.
Yep, la actitud. So an initial C, if it's followed by another vowel, you can count it being hard, like a K. All right, was that your third one, or is that your second one?
That's my first one.
Okay. All right.
La foto.
Okay, but how's our T go? La foto.
Oh, sorry. La foto.
Mm-hmm.
La mano.
Mano. Good. So now we're getting into nouns that end in O that are actually feminine, even though they end in O. So these are the counterparts. So you have la foto, la mano. And see, we've been all the way around, right? So I'll just finish up the rest of these because we're almost at time. So la foto, la mano, la radio. And then here are some feminine nouns that don't follow the pattern. So these, again, you just learn them as they come. So it's la clase, la flor, la luz, la mujer, la piel, la suerte.
La suerte.
All right, so I'd encourage you this week to go ahead and do exercises 1 and 2 if you want to. Yeah, in fact, go ahead and do exercises 1, 2, and 3. No one gets penalized if you don't do them, but good follow-up practice for the week is if you go through, because it's going to force you to kind of get some of the gender stuff that they want you to put, el and las with them. They're going to show you some other examples, then they're going to show you how you do the plurals, which we'll probably review next week, but then you can do exercise 1, 2. And then they'll give you some indefinite articles. Because then number 3, exercise 1-3, has you translate back from Spanish into English, which is good practice. And all the answers are in the back of your book. So on those exercises, you can do them. You gotta do them in pencil so you can erase and then correct them and have them right. But all the answers are there, so you can do it and then you can check immediately and know how you're doing. So, all right, thank you for working so hard. This is good. I'm very excited for all of you, and we will see everybody next week.